Just a great big old good one. It's a nice fish. Gotta think that joke is.
So you want to catch crappie consistently year round. Here are the important steps that I feel you must do. I know that they help me, and as I know that you may know, I still fish year round and pretty consistently. So tip number one is know your electronics. It don't matter what kind of electronic you have, whether it's live scope, which is the preferred as it shows you where the fish are, the depth, how they react to your bait. But you can have SI, you can have 2D, you can have down imaging.
Oh, that tree there is loaded. That tree is loaded.
Regardless of what type of electronic you have, the important thing is to know what it shows you and know what structure looks like, know what fish look like. Those are the important things. Next important step is to fish where the fish are. And what I mean by that is it takes work to get out there and find structure, which is very important when it comes to crappie, because most lakes you will need to fish near, around, on top of, sometimes inside of structure to catch these fish, especially the lakes down here that I fish in southeast Texas. The next important thing is determining the jig color, pattern, and action that will entice the fish to bite. What do you have to do that? A lot of times what I'll do is try to match the watercolor. That don't always work, but it's a starting point. Be willing to change jigs and change jigs often until you find a consistent bite. And as you see with live scope, I'm missing a bunch of these fish, and that brings up step number 3, which is to use scent. Using scent will help that fish hold on to that bait a little bit longer to give you time to set the hook and possibly get the fish in the boat. I'm getting bit right here, but they are not taking my bait. They're just nipping it. So step 3 is, which is important a lot of times I'll just use the fish line, but crappie nibbles are a very good scent to have in your boat. And also some type of garlic scent, whether it be the stuff from crappie.com. You got Slab Sauce, you got G Sauce. Those guys over there got a good product also, and it's well worth having in your boat. Now, I'm giving you this information. This isn't written in stone. These are starting points. And my biggest thing is if what you're doing is not working, you need to be making some changes. Whether it be the type of structure, the area of the lake, the depth. There's one thing that you must know about these crappie is that there are no definites. Regardless of who tells you anything, any tips that goes with catching crappie, one thing that's for certain is that they will be making some changes, and you will have to adapt and make changes also if you want to stay on a consistent bite. As you can see here, I'm fishing standing timber, and they're like telephone poles, most of it, but you just need to determine what the fish want, where they are, what they'll feed on. So step number 4 is making those changes. As you'll see here coming up, I'll be changing baits and finally find one that they'll eat. So, and a lot of times on the action, I know I mentioned that a while ago, but the action, a lot of times you can just put that bait down there without doing anything, and slow raises, slow swims, little ticks on that jig, a lot of times is what it will take to entice those fish. You don't have to go out there and jiggle that jig. I mean, it's called jigging, but you don't have to go to town jigging that jig. It's just getting it in their face, checking the different depths. And that's another thing with live scope, is it shows you the exact depth that those fish are hanging. And it also gives you right now information on how these fish are reacting to your bait.
Just a great big old good one. He'll do. It's a nice fish. Got to think that joker is. Just old nice and bam. Just look how thick that fish is. Good morning to you. That be's number one.
And you see here I'm changing a different rod, and I'll take 3 or 4 rods with me. That way I can run through 3 or 4 different colors really quick. And that's another great tip, because instead of taking one rod and then tying baits when you want to change, have you 3 or 4 rods with different baits on it, and all you got to do is just grab another rod to put it down there to check that next color. Very important to be on structure, guys. These crappie love to hang on structure, and fishing near, around, on top, and in structure will greatly improve your catches. One thing that we must not forget is to be true and give each jig color, each jig pattern, each jig size an honest try, along with the spots that we fish and the techniques also. We must give them an honest go, because we could be moving too fast, and that's something that you don't want to do. Patience is a virtue out here, something that you must have. And a saying that I always use is move fast and fish slow. The fishing slow part you can't skip. You know, I know I talk a lot about moving out here while we're out on the lake fishing, but you must give all techniques an honest try. For some of you guys that are just getting into crappie fishing, let me tell you, don't think you're just going to come out here on these lakes and load your boat with crappie. We put several hours into scanning these lakes, into learning what to do and how to do it, and what it takes to entice these fish to hit a jig. Now, I know a lot of people will just say, oh, we'll just use minnows. Well, if you want to do that, that's perfectly fine. They catch fish also. But the thing is, that jig bite is so intense. The thump is so intense, and it's just a lot stronger addiction when you get into jig fishing. One other thing that I will say is don't get locked on a spot, because even though you have live scope, you can see fish down there. One thing that you will find out real soon is you'll spend a whole day sitting there trying to make an inactive fish bite. So if you feel that those fish are inactive, hey, it's time to pack up and hit another spot. Hopefully these tips will help you catch more and bigger fish. Thanks for watching, and as always, more coming soon.